Hello, this is our group podcast number 7. Welcome. My name is Basic.
I'm Dr. Killsauce.
I'm Faded Sun.
Red Jams.
Master of Math.
Sneaky Dragon.
I was hoping for a welcome to Wargroove, but whatever. So, today's gonna be fun. Groove War is now completed. Finals were Master of Math versus Shu. Shu won. Congratulations. What do you guys think about it?
Just one thing. Group of War hasn't been completed. The community is still going on. Group of War 4 has been completed.
Because I want you to be happy, here you go.
Bazik wanting somebody to be happy? What's going on here?
So the event is over. There's what's it called? There's a survey that you could check out.
Yes.
Link.
Indeed.
I don't know how we're gonna get the link out,
We'll
but
just
you can
put on
find
the
it
chat.
in the Discord.
Yes, please complete that survey. It's very helpful to.
No.
I'll put it in the. I mean, it's going to be super obnoxious for somebody to have to type it in from the thing, but it's. I'll put it in the document.
Yeah, I was about to share it too. Well, now it's shared on the chat.
All right.
All in caps, guys. Go. Kill Sauce already shouting at everyone.
I got to shout on caps because I don't do it on the mic.
Okay, we've done the work part. Let's talk about the fun stuff.
Okay, so well, Master of Math vs. Shu. It honestly was a really good set. I mean, certain things happened that we called. Actually, me, Bazik, and I think Mastro were all in a voice chat while the finals were going on, and we were having some interesting commentary the whole time.
It was definitely super fun.
Yeah. The first match was on Gilgamesh, and it was a Caesar mirror, which there was a lot to be said specifically about the Caesar mirror. That's something. Second match was on Iranian Labyrinth, which was Math was Sedge and Shu was
Wolfar?
Wolfar, yeah. And on the last map, it was Before the Flood, where Math was Wolfar and Shu was Koji. But past that, I guess let's talk about Game 1,
Yeah,
because that one is going to be. I think that one has a lot to say about it.
Let's start from the start. We should let Master of Math talk about it first, since he was playing it.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I can go into my thought process. So Shu won the coin flip. He wanted to let me pick the map, and he'll get the player position. So he banned Oblivion and Cloak, and I knew I didn't really want to go to Rustic or Iranian because like Shu, if you didn't know, he's like a speed demon. He moves crazy fast. He like he's like a master of the hotkeys because like he was grinding like tons of hours of Hard Arcade using the hotkeys. So he's like really fast. So yeah, you don't want to get into like a timeout war, and like Rustic and Iranian are like a bit too slow for the current timer. Well, Rustic kind of is a bit slow in general, but Iranian like it's probably better suited for a 45-minute timer, considering that you can like just not play the game and camp at HQ. Yeah, so realistically, I had 2 maps left, Gilgamesh and Before the Flood. Now I knew that Shu had like a strat on Before the Flood, he was pretty confident in, and I also knew that like Killsauce got timed out on that map, so I didn't really want to go there. But I also knew that like on Gilgamesh, there's like a slight player one, like very minor advantage, but like I decided to go there anyways because I'm not gonna get timed out there. So then co-bans. So I banned Ragna because I didn't want to deal with her, and like it's really easy to play when you want to play fast. which suits Shu. Then he banned Vesper and Valder, which was unfortunate because I actually wanted to use Valder on 3 of the maps, on Gilgamesh, on Oblivion, and on Before the Flood. He actually banned Valder on both Before the Flood and Gilgamesh. So that was unfortunate because I really wanted to use Valder since basically I can get an advantage early on, and then the moment his disadvantage comes up, it's already like timeout land. So I don't really have to be too concerned. But yeah, so I was the last person to I had the last ban, and I had a choice to ban Caesar or ban like someone like Koji, but I decided that because I don't want to get timed out, and Shu is kind of better with Koji versus all the other good options that are available, just to ban Koji and play Caesar because that would give me the best chance of some like random lethal, which Shu is it's shown to be a little bit of his weakness or like his vulnerability. So yeah, we played a Caesar mirror. I let you guys speak because I was speaking for quite a long time. So, what were your thoughts on the Caesar mirror?
Well, I know Basic said had a lot to say, so I was going to let him start off on this.
Why? I never said I had a lot to say.
No, you did. Well, I mean, you did when we were in the chat,
Really?
in the voice chat.
I did.
Okay, mate, fine. I'll paraphrase it. Paraphrase here. I don't know why these guys allowed Caesar to go through.
Oh,
So, it was something along those
you
lines.
mean that? No, that has to me that has nothing to do with the match. But I can talk about that all day long if you want to. Like, I still don't understand why people leave Caesar open. Like, you're just
Because
like,
Caesar's overrated. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
okay, I told you why my side I left Caesar open. On Shu's side, like he's been very vocal that Shu's fine with playing as Caesar as long as he's playing Caesar also. So he just didn't care, and he preferred to ban Vesper and Valder instead because he
Yeah.
didn't want to deal with Vesper and he didn't want to deal with Valder.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to that, I honestly think that unless you're doing something where you're ahead of Koan, I think Caesar inherently has an FTA or STA advantage in the highest levels of play because whoever groups first is going to kill the other person's army first and likely leave him with nothing to do. So whichever way the FTA counter goes, like if you had the co-advantage on one side, I think that Caesar has a Caesar's broken versus himself.
Yep. Which, because of the opening, Shu had.
I disagree. Like I think
I disagree.
Really?
Like especially on like this map in this game because you can't press the Caesar groove very quickly, since you get it quite fast here. If you're playing a 19 by 19, I would agree more because groove is a lot more delayed. Or like you play a map where you can't get any like early groove.
But you think his groove was not decisive in that game?
I think in like this game I kind of misplayed it.
That's not what I asked, though.
Well, like groove will be decisive. Caesar here. Like Caesar is all about the groove, and
Obviously, he made a mistake and he took advantage, and that's not what I asked because the thing is, like, he had Caesar in the center with groove a bit before than you. And you didn't
It
have
doesn't
groove
matter if
because
it's Caesar or Ragna. If you're in that position and there's a groove threatening mid, it's exactly the same. It doesn't matter if it's Caesar or Ragna or anyone with a hyper aggressive control
it's
group.
different. With Ragnar there, he can't groove because he's too far. The reason why I think Master can talk about this better than I can for sure, is because he probably thought that he was safe because he was far enough. Like spear, he had one spear that could attack out of the pack, and that was pretty much it. But Caesar ignores that. With Ragnar, you can't jump in there. You just can't. You jump in and you just die.
Well, that's not like in this case what happened. Like I saw that he could attack, but I just kind of assumed that like, okay, I have one attack exposed, and there isn't really a reason for him to use groove because he uses groove, he doesn't get that much extra value. Like he's not gonna kill my commander. He can't really like he can move a few spears extra and like a knight extra, but that won't do that much. But I ended up underestimating just the power of his massive spear wall. Like I found it a bit suspicious that he was like building so many spears early on because like Caesar is someone who can like build knights into spears because he doesn't care. Just like Shu himself was playing mercenary in the test round of January, and he had like 4 knights against like an army of spears. But it didn't matter because Caesar just uses groove. Like he knight crits the spears or whatever, and then he uses groove, and then he just cleans it up. So that was a bit suspicious, but I ended up on that turn a bit underestimating the defensive power of that spear lob, and yeah, I couldn't break it, and his commander was a little bit suspect, but I also couldn't like I was like a square away from being able to kill him. Like I could have grooved a mage and mage crit twice, except I couldn't clear the spear without taking up the spot I needed the mage to be, or I needed Caesar to be. So it was a little bit on the edge, but yeah, it was a bit unfortunate.
But everything you said now, I think corroborates what I said in the sense that isn't that the hidden power that we have been talking all along about Caesar? Like you analyzed, you said it yourself. You analyzed like, can he kill my commander? Can he do the like you said 2 or 3 things? I don't remember exactly what they were that you were thinking about how he could use groove, and you missed one, and
I
that
didn't miss
one ended up costing you the game ultimately.
Well, I didn't miss one. I underestimated it. Was really like the spears in this case. Like I just had to sit back a bit more, and then I'd be fine.
But that play isn't available with other commanders.
I disagree. That play is available with many other commanders. You
Really?
say you have to think about a bunch of different things. I think about that no matter who I'm facing. If I'm playing a Ragna, I'm thinking, can I be lethal? Can this go in on my army? Can this take out my barracks? If I'm playing a Koji, can I be lethal? Can this break my wall? Can this take out my
We
barracks?
don't have time for that, but I would like to make that specific position and give you different commanders for you to show me how you do that with many commanders. Because I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Like, not even slightly. I don't think that's true at all. I think that's defense was super solid. It's just that Caesar is very strong there.
That wasn't the problem. The problem was that Shu had like a million spears.
He had
And I
4
said
spears.
when I was doing the FTA video that the biggest problem was that I could not build spears as P2. Because if you have a shit ton of spears on Gilgamesh, you just control the center and win. But when I built spears, I was so far delayed, I couldn't get them to the front, I couldn't hold off Ragna. Ragna literally did jump and take out my barracks.
You're talking about if it's the Groove of War game, your game, you're talking about a much farther phase of the game, though.
So, I
No,
mean, maybe
that
it's a
was about the
combination
base
of
of the
both
game.
of these things. Just look at what Garbly just said in chat. What we're saying is Gilgamesh is bad. No, I'm not saying that. I think Caesar is toxic.
I
Okay,
think
I think
Gilgamesh
it's more
is the
toxic
best
than this
map.
whole podcast.
Like the main problem was I underestimated like how strong of formation he could set up.
I think you're still
So,
underestimating
he got
the Caesar power
damage,
there.
and I couldn't do any damage back. That was the problem. Like I couldn't get any good counterattack, and like I could kill his dragon, but doing that required giving up my witch, which I ended up doing. So it was a problem.
I have a question then. Do you think that that's kind of situation would not happen normally? Is that a weird one-off case, in your opinion,
This
then?
kind of calculation can happen at any time. Like in the Iranian game, the last turn that when Shu got lethal, he gave up his golem at the same time. So if there was no lethal, I just kill his golem. People miscalculate all the time, and they make these game-losing errors. Like on the flood, he both his golem.
I find that argument very unconvincing when this keeps happening with Caesar and not at all with most commanders.
It doesn't keep
It happens with Vesper.
either.
It happens with Vesper too.
Sedge with Wolfar, like
With Sedge, really?
the same set.
I think Sedge was very unimpressive this tournament.
Okay, I think honestly, I think we should probably drop it at this point because we're not getting anywhere with this. Some of us think that the problem was with Caesar on that map, and not like that's the thing. We're actually giving you credit. We think that Caesar was the problem on that map, and less so your plays.
I think the position was fine. I
I honestly thought.
I think Caesar there was the difference there.
Like, how can you blame Caesar? Where it's a Caesar ditto. There was no like.
Doesn't matter. He grooved, and you didn't.
So
this isn't real time.
I'm blaming it. That was what I came back around to.
I've been talking about. Some people just hate Caesar now for some reason.
I don't hate Caesar.
Caesar FTA is what I say. In a Caesar ditto, the first Caesar to get groove has such a huge advantage.
I think.
I mean, that happens, I guess, in most mirrors, but
you have to consider the range. Caesar has 2 ranges he can groove. Long range, which is a desperate play. He's sacrificing whatever he sends in, so if it doesn't wipe you out, he loses those units. And short range, which is where he's really strong, he could wall break or lethal. You shouldn't get a lethal at long range. That happened in my game with Loveless because Loveless didn't block a side of the commander, but that shouldn't happen if you're playing defensively.
It happened in my game with TFJ.
It
Got
happens
him
a
from
lot.
pretty
It's
long
not.
range.
It's not. It's not. This is not accurate. This is not an accurate statement. The idea
Okay,
that it
it
doesn't
happens,
happen long
Sure,
range,
but
like,
I'm saying
come
it
on.
won't happen unless you make a mistake. Like it should
Are
not
you
happen.
expecting players
unless
to
you
play
leave
it
something open.
perfectly?
Caesar with Groove controls so much territory.
Are we assuming
it's
players are
disgusting.
perfect? Is that it? People will
Anyways,
make mistakes. We
we're
need to
getting
assume
off
that,
topic
right?
on this. So
That
let's
was
go
game one,
back-
by the
let's-
way.
yeah, let's just go back to finish off this game one. It ended up happening that after Shu's first Caesar Groove, Math was pretty far behind, and he was likely looking for something with his own Caesar Groove to get a lethal on Shu. It just the opportunity never revealed itself, and Shu ended up winning from that.
Just like
So-
because we were off already, like a mini tangent. Like I think the reason why I'm so like outgoing and not blaming it on Caesar at all is because like you want to improve and you want to find your mistakes and find how you do better. You can't blame it on like these things that that don't directly contribute to your loss. Like there are reasons like why you make mistakes. In this case, I underestimated Spears combined with Caesar. I didn't think they were any good, and just I had to try to play against the Spears more than trying to play as Caesar and control the center, which is what I was trying to do.
Just a side note, I'm not saying the mistake was during the game, by the way. I think the mistake, and I've been stating this for weeks now, was letting Caesar through. Because
Why
players
the
will make mistakes.
why-
Like this idea, players play perfectly is not something I'll ever accept.
I'm not saying players play perfectly. I'm saying if you die to a long range Caesar Groove, you made a bit of an obvious mistake. because
Obvious?
there are
Do you
only
think
so
you're-
many things
come
you can
on.
use for that?
Do you think your long range kill with Caesar was an obvious kill?
I'm not saying that was an obvious kill.
It was
but
long
I'm saying
range.
there was a dragon and a witch and Caesar Groove, and there were 3 sides opened. Like you have to cover at least 2 sides for that. And
So I
I'm
guess
saying
the
that
trick
was a
is
bit of
with
a mistake.
Caesar. The trick to beat Caesar in a timer format, because I think this is a big part of it, is the timer format.
Of course.
That you can't spend all the time in the world thinking about trying to block this guy. Is you make it so you think Caesar, your commander is just almost vulnerable enough to die, and Caesar spends a lot of time every turn trying to think of ways to lethal you with his groove, and then you time him out. That's the play.
That's genius. That is actually a really good idea. That totally would have worked.
I honestly just think, though, as far as it goes, if you think about how much time it takes to find a lethal, as opposed to how much time it takes to defend against all the different options Caesar has, I think there's a huge imbalance on that, and I think it's in favor of the person who is playing Caesar.
It's definitely one of the powers of Caesar is that Caesar reverses the equation. Usually, it takes a lot longer to find the weird lethal than it is to defend against the weird lethal. Because most people know, okay, I'm not going to leave him on the road, or I'm not going to leave 2 spaces open, stuff like that. But Caesar kind of reverses that situation because the amount of possible situations where you can create a lethal increases so much, depending on map positions, right? And they change so much all the time by just changing some of the units around. So it changes completely the dynamic between how long you expect to take defending against the lethal and how long you expect to take finding that lethal, right?
Yeah, I mean that's sort of what I was trying to say there. Anyways, let's go to game 2.
I just want to respond to Bazik's points. You know, I shouldn't have allowed Caesar through. Well, if you look at my position when I had that ban option, we already banned Wolf. We already banned Vesper, Valder, and Ragna, and Koji was still on the table. So if I ban Caesar, then Shu's gonna go Koji, and I don't have such like easy, good comfort picks to fight Koji well. Like I have Wolfar and I have like Sedge. And like neither of those are so appealing on Gilgamesh because you can kind of just ignore Wolfar, and like Sedge doesn't really help me beat Shu's timeout strats. So yeah, and with dragons and stuff, Sedge kind of stays on the periphery. He can't really be everywhere at once on Gilgamesh.
Honestly,
So
I think you would have been better treated by banning of Caesar and Koji.
I wanted to choose Shu, so Caesar is the best commander for that.
Yeah, backfired.
Okay, all right, okay, stop. We're done with this conversation.
Let's go, match 2.
Next one. Iranian Labyrinth. Okay, who wants to talk about this game? Faded, you've been kind of quiet. What did you think about this match?
Ah, he's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone. He's
Wow.
gone. Just has the icon. You're muted, Faded. Oh,
All right. I guess I could talk about it. So, for the first few turns, I think it was fine. Like everything was standard. And then after a while, Shu just kept chasing Sedge and hitting Sedge over and over again until he backed off. And then the game was stabilized a little bit. And then afterwards, at the end, Wolfar mispositioned and he died. Okay, and Faded's back. So
Yeah, I
Is-
think that's a pretty good rundown of what happened.
I would just like to add that Shu went for the control in the middle at the start of the game, while Matlord had his army a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, so that game we banned all the heavy hitters. So it was Caesar, Vesper, Ragna,
And Koji.
and Koji. So it was all like the main picks. That was kind of like my ideal kind of ban setup. That's kind of what I wanted to have on like all the maps banned, and I assumed that she would ban Caesar Vesper, so I could just ban Ragna Koji. But it didn't turn out like that for 2 of the games. So yeah, I was pretty comfortable choosing Sedge because he's really good on Iranian. So even if Shu tries to play late game, like Sedge wins late game. So I'm not so scared of timeout or as scared. Yeah, and then Shu goes for like a more central approach, but the problem on Iranian is so you can't do anything with center. It's immobile. So I just built archers and got groove and started to get golems and sat back, and he couldn't get advantage. And like he gave lethal to me, but I could have easily I was totally ahead that game. It
Yeah.
was an easy advantage because I had said I hit archers and he would have to retreat.
I agree with that. I think when me and Basic were watching the match, I was saying, I'm like, it looked like maybe from the numbers you might have been a little bit behind, like on unit count or something, or I don't know, it was income you were behind on. But even then, I'm just like, if you hold Sedge Groove for 3 turns, you're going to get ahead. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, you're just going to keep killing stuff, keep killing his golems, and I was just like looking for ways, and he was respecting Sedge Groove a lot, and then Shu revealed his ultimate weakness.
Yeah.
Night crits.
You can't count to 6, as you said. I think last podcast.
Yes, that's what it is.
But
You
yeah,
can't count to
'cause
6.
once it has groove, you don't really get to play the game, and Shu didn't get an advantage before then. So yeah, he wasn't gonna get to play the game, and I would get 3 advantages and probably win if I didn't make mistakes. Or I could get timed out.
I don't think the game was that close to being timed out. I do think that you eventually, if he didn't give lethal then, I think you would have eventually got him, because yeah, you would have just been able to. Iranian is a very golem heavy map, and Sedge does really good at getting rid of golems.
Yeah, I had like my win cons all on like the map already, and like he couldn't easily do what he might want to do, and I had archers set up, and I had like 20 plus minutes also playing fast enough.
So I mean, it was a pretty good match. I almost wish I could have seen it go longer into its more logical conclusion, but I mean, you did what you had to do.
Yeah, it was a fine match.
Yeah, game 1 and 2 kind of ended abruptly. Like it was, they could have gone longer if not for mistakes.
I mean, but then that's how games end, right? People make mistakes and then people capitalize, so the game ends. I mean, it's not that what's it called. It's not that surprising.
People
Except
make
if you're
mistakes.
playing hard, then the game never ends.
Well, I will say people, yeah, people make mistakes, and sometimes those are like real fun to watch, like the lower skill levels. But as you get higher in the skill, people open up commander, or they leave commander lethal on the table a lot less.
And that's why
So-
those mistakes are so much better to watch, right? Because they're forced errors instead of just straight up errors. They're mistakes
Yeah.
because the other guy's playing so well, they're not leaving any good options on the table, so they start doing the mistakes.
If you give up lethal, like it's you overpressed. You were maybe you weren't so comfortable. You want to try to find a way back to the games. You overpress with your commander a little. Then it turns out you overpressed, and which like that situation fits the case very well, because if Shu just sits back and is a bit careful, then he just loses to Sedge.
Yeah, Sedge is the long game king, that's for sure. Sedge is one of those commanders that if we were playing on a turn timer event, Sedge would be much stronger, while commanders like Ragnar would be weaker. But that's
Yeah,
a conversation for another day, I guess.
Henry, but with 30 minutes, it's not enough time.
All right. Let's not get into co-balance
Yeah.
again.
And we'll I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about timers later on when you talk about the tournament as a whole.
Yeah.
So let's go match 3.
And I think Faded said he had something to say about this one. He's back, by the way. He came back from the Shadow Realm.
Yes, I'm back. I really enjoyed this match in particular because we saw the vertical barge science that Shu decided to use, where Math went a more normal horizontal barge, I believe. And we saw a gigantic Treb war. I think Math had 4 Trebs out, which is insane. I've never seen anything like that on this map. But time was a factor here, and I feel like if the map was 45 minutes long, it seemed like Math would have won that battle.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, you also had some timer troubles on that map, so it feels like this map just kind of lends itself well to longer matches.
I think at 45 minutes we would have 1 hour and a half of that same game.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe Math can speak about that, about how long that could have possibly have gone. I don't know if he pushed because of time or if he just would have pushed eventually.
I needed like 5 minutes. The problem was that at one point I hit 2 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, let's move 1 more square, and then I'm in range of HQ, because I don't have time to do this any later. And then it turned out that it couldn't hold, but I did have a choice by that point. Ideally, I would have waited a little bit more, and then I'd kill his unit slowly, and then I'd move forward with my army of Trebs, because I had already a second one by that point. And the thing with 1 Treb is, like, 1 Treb you can fight, because you can kill the Treb, or you can like weak cripple it. With 2 Trebs, you have 1 Treb that covers the other Treb, and also kind of meat shields for it. So for that, you can never attack into, because it's like 2 units per turn, and yeah. So you give me like 5 more minutes, maybe even less, and I just win that game. Because I need 1 more square to solidify a wall to get my Trebs shooting at him.
The thing is, if the game was 45 minutes, the last 10 minutes of the game on both sides play differently. So you're not in that position if it's a 45-minute game.
I was like super winning that whole game, but he dragged it out by building Trebs, and you don't really have a better option than building Trebs back.
I don't think you were ever clearly winning that game.
Ever since I golfed his golem into the water, I was clearly winning. It just takes time. But
I agree, you were ahead, but not clearly winning.
I don't know.
I don't know. There was a good amount of time. I mean, for instance, Math totally crippled like all of Shu's Trebs and was clearly ahead for a good amount of the time. He was making better pushes. I don't know. I just feel like he was ahead most of the game.
But I think that's a lot to do with how Shu was playing. We've talked about this before in Killsaw's game when he won against Shu. because Shu is trying to play as fast as he can, he makes like these minor mistakes quite a bit too often, if I'm being completely honest here. And I think Mathlord gets ahead because Shu is playing much faster. Like, and
That might
and I
be
think if
true,
you go
but-
to 45 minutes, that changes everything. So it's a different game.
There's a technicality here, though. I had a conversation with Shu about this. He doesn't really have a slower speed. So even in a slower, that's why Shu hates async. Shu will always play fast. That is how Shu plays. That is Shu's best speed to play at. If Shu plays any slower, Shu will get a little bit worse, or at least that's what he told me.
That's
So-
not true. Okay, get worse relative to everyone else, but like Shu playing like a bit slower, he plays like way better. It's just that relative to everybody else, he plays his best like this because he times everyone out,
Yeah.
and if he doesn't time out, he probably outplays along the way.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying, like, you can't just assume if the time went longer, Shu would automatically have a better strategy.
Oh, that's not what I meant. What I meant was the game you had all the way up to like 15 minutes on each side. And by the way, Master of Math was actually ahead on time at that time. We actually talked about it, me and Killsauce, when we were watching the game, that we were actually quite impressed because Master had a really good position and he was ahead on time. And at the time, I actually just outright said this is gonna be a game about timer, and Mathlord should just right now start playing the timer. And then Mathlord went and played like 3 minute or 4 minute turn or whatever, and got behind on timer, and I was like, "What the hell just happened here?"
And
So I don't know.
oh, go on.
So I don't know if this is true, but you guys said that there was at least 3 lethal chances from Math on in that game.
At least 2 I know of.
Math, what do you think about that?
Master Math, are you there?
Okay, I'll tell you what he thinks about it.
I guess he's not here.
No, he might have stepped away for a second.
Yeah.
But I think he did mention that in the chat somewhere, where he said he was tunnel vision. It was almost like what happened in my game, except my lethal was way more obvious against Shu than his was, and he said he just tunnel visioned and didn't see it, and I assume that's fair because once again, when you're playing Shu is intentionally playing the timer, so you have to try to match his speed, otherwise you just don't have any chance.
Right, that's true.
So he likely was just tunnel visioning and didn't see it, and the times he did take a long time, the turns he did take a long time aren't the turns where the was lethal on the board.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You have to consider at that point in the game just the number of units that were on the board. Math would have to think of a place for each of them to move, or just decide not to move them. What's he going to build? How's he going to advance on Shu? What's going to happen 3 turns down the line to try to end this on time because he's behind on time?
I think the only chance was really at around those that like in the mid game when Shu's first trebuchet comes out, you immediately have to know that you're from this point on playing on timer, because this game was never gonna end. Like I was trying to explain to a friend of ours that was on voice that even though it might look like BTF has a kind of exposed headquarters because of all the open sides, you can night crit it a lot and stuff like that. It's actually extremely hard to close the game out by killing the headquarters on BTF.
That's really true. I was just thinking that it's such a deceptively open stronghold.
Yeah, and at 15 minutes, you see a trebuchet coming out. Okay, this game is going the long run. Like I don't see Shu making a game-ending mistake here, or Mathlord, by the way, making a game-ending mistake. So this game is going to end on time.
It's just
So
the
it's-
reinforcement time. It's like if you want to walk a golem from one side to the other, that's what 3, 4, 5 turns, depending on how you do it. If you want to get spears over there, even if you have a balloon, how many turns is that? Meanwhile, your opponent has like 1, 2 turn reinforcements for 2 to 3 units. It's just insanely easy to defend that stronghold.
You're reinforcing with 3 structures right beside the stronghold. It's insane.
And also the fact that you can get a trebuchet there, and that also you can get immediate balloon spear also there.
Yeah.
It just makes it a really hard headquarters to push.
And attacking from
Yeah,
the
like-
top, you need to attack into beaches, and attacking from the side, you need to attack in between a building and a mountain. Like you have no good attack paths on that map.
Well, the problem is the racks to HQ just like one player has two racks that are like really close to the HQ, and the other player has their racks on like the opposite side of the map. So it takes forever to get there, and the other player has so many units there, and they can also set up like a crazy impossible defense to break. So yeah, it's really hard to do anything against that HQ.
By the way, Faded had a question for you. You were out.
Yeah. So knowing this, and you said something about this in chat. And I saw in Twitch chat as well people talking about it. Why didn't you buy archers? Like I don't understand it.
Archers don't do anything. What do archers do with stone?
What aren't they going to do? They're going to help to dwindle down that gigantic spear wall.
Because they have to protect the archers. So
And plus, you have trebs to get
they're
to.
more squishy. Like archers are slower, they're more squishy, and they don't nuke things as well. So
It just seems like archers are good to have in a treb war.
in a tribal war, you don't want archers. They don't help. You want fast stuff like dragons and knights, or you want trebs, or like mages and golems are good because golems help tank and they can hit trebs, and mages kill things, and they counter air.
Let's see. Let's go back to talking about how well defended the HQ is.
I just need to add a follow-up question to the archer thing.
Mhm.
My question then becomes, if they're massing spears like we know, Shu masses, aren't archers then valuable?
Trebs do it better, and if they have trebs and spears, then you need trebs to stop that, and maybe like golems or your own spears. Archers don't help them because treb just moves forward with the spears, and archer can't go get in range. And if archer hits, let's say meat shield, then spears move forward, kill the meat shield, and then treb moves in range to cover, and archer has to retreat.
Then, in that case, then how would you feel if there were rifles on this map which are purposely designed to deal with a situation like this?
Rifles make it worse because then your mages can't get anywhere near HQ. Your swords can't get anywhere near HQ. Your spears, which make good defense of walls, can't get near HQ. And you need that kind of stuff because your racks are so far away. Instead, Shu can just like spam dogs and spam more dogs, get rifles, and spam harpies like he was. And then I can't touch his HQ because I need witches, and witches counter witches. And then I never win.
Here's the real problem with the map. Think about what economically you'd have to do to close the game without approaching the stronghold. Because we've already talked about how approaching the stronghold is crazy hard. You're a million reinforcements behind. It's like you're playing at -8 units, and then you have to hold that somehow.
I was winning on econ, but that's not a great win con on this map, especially because of the HQ. Like, the HQ, in general, this map has like other problems. Like, you never want to touch the center because you give up way too much income on the flanks. Like there's a lot of like other kind of issues here with the gameplay.
Yeah, that's another thing. In order to hold an economic advantage, you have to hold both sides. But if you put all your army on one side, your opponent can push the other side, even if they're behind. They can catch up on econ that way. If you split your army, they can full push into one side, maybe wipe out your forces or scare you back a little bit. You can't go through the center because it's a forest, and you'll just get flanked and attacked on two sides.
He's kind of doing that, so he kind of mitigated the income damage I was doing. But like, that's not like a huge problem. Like,
Talking
okay.
about income, what about that village on the corner that you took forever to catch? How did that affect your plan?
It takes forever. Like,
It
pretty
delayed you quite a
reasonable.
bit, right?
No, like it was pretty reasonable, and I got other like I wasn't even behind on income because I was doing other stuff, and I got other villages, and then once I got that, I had an income lead.
Yeah, I would say I'd agree with Math on this. It's the thing about using horizontal barge to counter vertical barge, which I think is the right thing to do. She was behind in other ways, so even though she technically got his corner village first, Math only got it like a turn or two later, and even then, it's not like he was actually down.
It wasn't 1 or 2 turns later. It was, if I remember correctly, it was like 4 turns later.
Maybe 3. Like,
But something like that, because the barge had to go all the way to the other side.
But even then, Math had. I mean, they weren't checking the income too much, so I can't remember everything that was happening. But I don't think Math was actually down on income from
No,
all that
Math was
because he
up on
had
income.
rest of the map.
The reason was because of my commander, and because his commander wasn't on the other side. Since with this map, the other side collapses without commander, so and that's why the whole vertical barge stuff never works. Because like the way this map kind of functions is you can't make progress against commander in between like the mountain village setup. So you can just pop your commander there and they never make progress. But on the other side, you can definitely make progress, and that's what you saw happen. Like I even killed his water village from his tower. It was getting that bad for him because he didn't have his commander there. But I did, so he could never do anything.
All right. Well, I think honestly it's probably enough to talk about this set, unless Red Jams I think wanted to say something about it or no.
Sure, I could talk a little bit about it. So, I mean, it's just not about the maps itself, but about unit count, right? So, first game, what was really interesting was you bought a golem, which was fine, right? But then I would have thought that you would have gotten a dragon a lot earlier, since I mean, it's just a dragon with a lot of roll tiles on the map, which Shu did, and then Shu kind of, I mean, he used the dragon really well, right? He made a lot of attacks that were really good. But then you had the golem at the corner, which felt awkward, right, for a pretty long time. So I was wondering why you didn't build that dragon on game one, and even game
Well,
three. Game three, you had plenty of chances to build dragons. I mean, you could have built Ballista too, but then that's your choice, right? Mages are fine, but yeah.
okay, so what happened in game 1 is that okay, I built the golem because just the way like the player 1 opening works, I had to stop him from getting groove extra early since he gets to hit my unit. So to do that, I think I didn't cap that village, and then I got golem to make sure he can't go for a decap on the side village. And yeah, that allowed him to get dragon. But after that, after we got those tech units, I couldn't really afford to get a dragon of my own because I had to get mages to counter his dragon, and there was never enough money. So I think the income's like 1,200, which isn't that much. Also, I had to delay heal, so I had to dump more money. So I had to heal, I had to get mages, so that was already like a lot of money sink. And then I had to get I think Knights later for Caesar Groove. So it was a lot of money I had committed. So I could never really bank for a dragon, and it wouldn't be like that crazy because he had anti-air. And then game 3, similar kind of thing. Like there was never a good time that I needed a dragon. Like, he was never that low on anti-air. I knew I needed witches because of Koji, and because at one point he got a dragon, so like I got witches. Uh, and then when he started getting trebs, I had to get trebs too. Like I waited because I knew I could take advantage of his treb because of the money sink. But then at a certain point I needed treb too, which is what I did, and yeah. But there was never a good time to get a dragon, and Golem suited my purpose better because it stopped him from pushing. Like he was never that low on anti-air, and I didn't see where a dragon would help me that much. Like he ended up losing his trebs anyways because of my golems. So it's not like I needed a dragon, and I didn't see how it could help me.
Okay, fair answer.
All right. Well, let's move to the next page.
Okay. So Groove of War 4 is now in the books. What do you think about it, guys?
I think Shu and Master Math need to choose their prizes so I can choose my prize. That's what I think.
I think it's great. It was really fun. And now we need Groove of War 5.
Groove of War 5 starting in 2 days, all right?
No, I need time to prepare. I gotta get ready, get my revenge.
Okay.
The
Okay.
gods have told me around 2 months of wait between tournaments, so let's hope.
Yeah, August is like a reasonable like time, or July, I guess. That's
July,
in 2
yeah.
months.
Yeah, I would
That sounds
expect
good
every
for
2 to
summer
3
stuff.
months.
Red Gems, you gotta enter this time.
Yeah, you were missing.
I'll try.
Well, it's summer, so like if we start it like in exactly 2 months, then like it should finish before like the school semester starts, or like right when it starts.
Yeah.
We have 2 months to fix all the maps we need for the tournament.
So what fix?
Go.
We already have a few maps that are already good, but even if we don't use that, we already have like a good map pool based on like testing. There are a lot of
Yeah,
good maps.
our map pool is getting bigger and bigger, so we're getting a lot to choose from.
We're gonna play Titan's Cradle again.
Yeah.
No.
Sam.
Actually, I think Titan's Cradle would play differently with a 350 Landfolk and
There's a new
250
map.
spears.
It's called
It's still pretty stally.
You build Merfolk and you landfolk them eventually.
It just happens. It just takes longer.
Yeah, in some game states.
So we're playing Asgard Rising?
No, not Asgard Rising. In the universe, it's the new Asgard Rising.
We're playing Thistle Down.
Okay, if anyone remembers, did this event release the map like way before, or like
Yeah,
just
like
before?
like a good. I remember it was quite a bit before. I would say at least 2 weeks before the tournament started, we knew all the maps, at least.
Maps were like confirmed, I think, like early March, and the tournament was like the deadline to sign up was like March 15.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think we had to finalize March 8th.
And we knew most
But
of the
I don't
maps
think we
already
released
because
them
they had told us
until,
that
like-
UIM maps were being used too.
I mean,
Should I
don't know.
mention a curious, possibly debate-worthy topic on this? I don't know.
Let's do it. This is a perfect place to do it. Go.
Okay, so this is actually a question, and I don't know what the answer is. But arguably, some of the folks here, possibly including me, although I'm dumb and I don't check, have access to the map pool before its release, arguably giving us an advantage in terms of practice. Is that a concern?
Well, what do you mean? You can the map tester the Discord channel is available to everyone. You just have to ask Exmo and DM, and he'll add you.
Yeah, but I think what he's saying is that if you know the exact maps that you need to work on while they're being tested is different than working on all the maps that are being tested at any one time.
Yeah, like I know I could get access to this. I might already have it. I don't even know, but I'm just saying, like, is that a concern? Is someone who just like comes in, oh hey, I'm here for the tournament, but I know absolutely nothing about this system. They get the map when it's released, right? But they weren't practicing testing on it. Does that give an advantage to folks who are part of the GOW community?
So wait, Sneaky, do you mean people practicing the map before we release it and say these are the maps for the tournament?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just mean map testing in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's just kind of impossible to avoid because there are people in the Discord that are just testing math. You know, people like Math are helping us test maps, so just like by default, he's gonna potentially know those maps in advance.
Yeah, but I think what he means is that, like, last time, I know, the maps were already fully decided, like 1 or 2 weeks before they were officially announced. So there were some people that were participating in the tournament that had that information, while everyone else didn't.
1 or 2 weeks. It was maybe like 1 week max. Like
1 week max is included in 1 or 2 weeks. I don't know the exact timing.
Okay,
yeah,
so
they might have been less. Like
no,
well,
it was
hold on.
at least
we
a
should
good
get
week.
the opinion out of me and Jams here because I think we were the only two in this group that
I
didn't
haven't
know
given
what
my
was going to be
opinion
ahead
yet.
of time.
I haven't given my opinion yet. It's not just you. I was just pointing out a little detail. No, I'm going to be fast about it. In my opinion, as long as the maps are announced with like a month before, even if some people already know those maps are going to be played, it's completely fine. Go.
Why do you need months?
Okay. So I'm gonna go with math on that. Why do you need a month? I think realistically, I think there's probably some sort of line about where you want to have the map. If you make it too early, I think people are gonna figure. If you like give us like a whole month ahead, people are gonna find out some cheese,
Perfect.
and maybe they'll share it, maybe they won't.
Perfect.
Good for them. But I think 2 weeks is honestly, for me, that feels like the right amount of time. So even if people played before that, if you know what the maps are 2 weeks before you even join the tournament, that feasibly gives anybody who's a serious competitor enough time to practice and figure out a strategy on the map.
Well, to be
Yeah, I
honest, you
agree.
only need one, but or you need like a day, and you could figure out a map. So like you have 1 week, that's enough time. And 2 weeks is like perfect.
I'd say,
I would
I
fully
mean, yeah,
disagree
depending
with
on
that
how
with
serious of
examples.
competitors you are, I think maybe a week could be, you could have a week if you had a day to do it, but sometimes people have a whole busy week and just aren't able to commit to the time.
Also, you don't have to master a map for round
1 week is unthinkable.
or round 2, or any of the Swiss rounds.
Even
You
2
need
weeks, I think, is short. Like, you can have your vacation by happenstance happen in the middle of those 2 weeks. And suddenly you have like 3 days to.
But it doesn't matter. You can go play those maps blind. Like first round, you're gonna be seated. You're gonna play a new player or someone like seated pretty low. So you're probably gonna win.
What if you're the new
And-
player and you're playing against a pro? And you want to
Or if
prepare?
you're the new player, you just like figure out whatever best about the map, and then you go for it.
You just accept the loss.
Except a lot. You just go for it, and you. But like being able to sit with the map for like a year doesn't help you.
No,
I will
no.
say this is an advantage of Swiss though. Like even if you do lose that first map, now the tournament's started. Now you have time during the tournament. So that's where my mid-ground statement of the 2 weeks is good, because even if you're not prepared enough and you get completely crushed on that first map, well, you have a whole week to prepare for the next map. So
At least a whole week.
I'm gonna go
At least
further
a
and
week.
say that all maps should be tournament tested, not just people tested. All maps should have at least been used in tournaments before the Groove of War 5 tournament, because I think this is the main tournament, so smaller tournaments, especially now that the tournaments with different timers and stuff like that is going to happen. I think those tournaments should test those maps, so by the time those maps are used in Groove of War 5, changing the map mid-tournament is no longer even something people consider, because the
It's not gonna
maps
happen.
are already established maps.
We had like less than a month to test and finalize the maps, and no one was testing because everyone was trying out new stuff, and then people didn't really feel like testing. So we had like 3 people testing maps, which was like a pain. And we couldn't find out like that much stuff.
Yeah, of course. I completely understand the limitations there were that time, but I'm just talking that I think we can improve on how it was done before.
Like
One really
maps
good
were
thing the
good.
Groove of War is doing now is the map testing tournaments.
Yeah, like what Burke is doing
That's perfect, yeah.
is
That's perfect.
basically what Basic is asking for.
Yep, that's exactly what I want. Exactly. Yeah, it's great.
We already had
It's
most
great.
maps in Test Your Metal, or all of them. So, and that didn't like it didn't show the so-called problems with Cloak and Dagger, and or Before the Flood, or yeah.
I mean, it did show the things with Gilgamesh, that much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we found Valdermesh because of it. It was worth it. It was definitely worth it.
That was good, at least for Valdermesh. I mean, and yeah, it changed like 3 days before the tournament, but honestly, the map is way better now.
I think it was the best map of the whole tournament.
So just to conclude the topic, because I brought it up, and I just wanted to have a little bit of a wrap up. It sounds like the consensus is, first of all, there's no way to not have map testing, but it's open to everybody who asks. And the maps are being released earlier now and in tournaments, and will be available for everyone a few weeks before the tournament to make sure that everybody has time to practice.
Also, like if I'm playing in like a match, chances are it's gonna be like a map test or something. So like a lot of the people I play against are testing maps without maybe knowing it, but they are. So Like even if you're not in the testing Discord, you're probably gonna play against people who are testing maps. So yeah, it's not some like secret cult that secretly tests the maps, and then we have like a masterminds who fully understand the
Is
maps.
this why Is this why Master Math got second place? I demand his
But-
second
but-
place.
but-
He got to test the maps early.
I don't think that addresses the problem at all. The fact that
He's in
people
a
can
secret cult.
test maps like that, because you don't know which maps are going to be played, so you're not like you're testing every single map because maybe you're part of the team that tests maps, but you cannot expect every single person that enters the tournament is going to test all maps just because they don't know which ones are going to be chosen, right? That like
Well, see,
testing random maps is not a good way of practicing for Groove of War 5. That's what I mean.
I'll disagree with that. I think it is because it gives you the inherent knowledge of just you're playing more in general. So if you see a map, it gives you that just that quick knowledge of how to quickly examine. It's experience is what it is, regardless.
It gives you opening knowledge. Like how do you practice openings? You do more openings and different. So playing different maps helps you build that, and then you can think of more creative openings. You can play better on the fly. You can not get cheesed on Cloak and Dagger. All these nice benefits.
Can't you just learn to play better on proper maps instead of maps that
Just
will get
play
fixes?
better. That's a really good solution.
So,
Get good?
I should have.
so what you're saying
Get
is
good.
you should train in a non-optimal way because those maps might show up eventually in a tournament. You might
Well,
want to
what's
participate.
Wait, do you have a proof that your supposed way is up?
What are we now entering the discussion if directed training is better than random training?
What directed training? I'm talking about before the maps are announced.
No, but that's what I'm
What do you-
saying. If the maps are announced with enough time, people don't need to train randomly.
Now, so I think we've covered the map testing question.
Yeah, I agree.
The maps were released in advance, and they're going to be released even more in advance now. And we have mini map testing tournaments for people to partake in to get a feel for them early on. So there's plenty of time for even people just coming in to get a hold of the maps before Groove of War 5, and that's pretty cool. And we have some new mini tournaments run by Burke, which is awesome. The next thing you guys were talking about was, is it better to train on tested maps or untested maps, or both? I think both.
I think there's value in just playing in general, because if you play, you're going to get more experience and you're just going to get better.
I agree. Just play more. Just play more. It doesn't matter what map you play on. Just play.
Yeah, I fully agree that
yeah.
playing more is obviously a good thing. That's not what I meant, by the way. Play more.
You want to play on a high quality map. If you don't want to play on like a default Chucklefish map or some like random map you find in custom content where there's no FT counter and it's like massive, take 5 hours to finish each.
I would say, as soon as you know which maps are going to be played in the tournament, play all the maps that are going to be played in the tournament a lot, and leave everything else on the table if you have the ability to practice on the maps that are going to be played during the tournament. Because map knowledge in this game is insanely powerful. You can beat a much stronger opponent if you have better map knowledge than your opponent a lot of the time.
I disagree. Like even before the tournament, I wasn't practicing on the maps. I didn't play on the maps for much of like the tournament. Like I didn't practice that much before Vito. I played like none.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't
saying that you
practice
won
all-
with a handicap isn't a good argument.
Well,
Like
So-
you're just that much better than the opposition, right? It's not because, like, of course there are ways of overcoming that handicap, but knowing the map is huge.
Okay, we're gonna get in one of these basic master math arguments here, and we don't need to do that.
Are we though?
Yes, we are. So here's the thing. I forgot what I was about to say.
Good.
So let's go through the several topics, at least the ones I remember. I'm sure there are more. So
Real quick, we actually have something from Red Halo in the Twitch chat. He put up a good question. He says, I have a quick question then. As one of the main Groove of War promotion people, do you think Groove of War will continue to grow in size? And what do you think are ways that we can continue to bring in more casual players? So,
Okay, so one thing I've been seeing on some of my videos lately on YouTube, go check them out, is that people have been saying that they're still getting the game. Like, oh, I just got this game, or wow, thanks for that video, I'm getting this game because I saw this, or someone's like playing with their friend, but they're having this problem. They don't know how to pause games with timer. And then I comment, I reply like, oh, you can suspend, and they're like, oh my god, thank you, this makes this so much better. I think there are a ton of people out there who would still buy Wargroove, they don't have it yet, or who play with their friends, and we've got to bring them in. And one big way to do that is more advertising, but also more maintenance, because we've got people coming in. Now we need to support them. It's a little bit jarring if everybody who comes in is suddenly playing against Shu for every match, or they like get like just they're not sure how the ladder works or everything. So one thing maybe we could do is have like a help chat, like ask questions here if you're new kind of thing.
Well, when
I would definitely advise everyone that ever listens to any of this, if you're interested in playing in a more competitive sense, do not be afraid to just join the Discord, the Groove of War Discord, and just ask questions in the main channel. People are super nice about it. They'll answer any question that you might have. Like people are super nice in this community. So don't be afraid to just ask and ask for someone to play with you, because people will show up. Like,
okay, I'm gonna take disagree with there on the one board. You said super nice.
people aren't.
A lot of
super
us
nice.
are nice, but there's also there is a little bit of. I don't think anybody is overtly toxic in the community, but we do have some people that are a little headstrong or a little elitist, a little opinionated. Yeah.
I don't think
Am
you
I
can
wrong?
avoid. I don't feel like you can avoid that in the gaming
Yeah,
community.
it's the internet.
But
Okay,
I think it's fair to say that we're a welcoming community.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
This is not the League of Legends, guys. We're fine.
Oh yeah, this is nothing like that. If anything, this podcast is probably the upper limit of toxicity you could expect on any normal day.
so to get back to the question, in my view, it's a bit different than Sneaky's. I think we should just keep doing what we're doing. Running more events, I think, helps because like there's more streams, there's more attention, more people can compete, and people like to compete, and it's fun. Uh, we can try to diversify a bit, like we're doing that now with Fog. Like doing more Fog is a good idea because a lot of casual players they can't imagine the game without Fog, so they'll enjoy competitive Fog gameplay. And like, but yeah, to get Fog started, we need again people to test maps, and testing Fog maps is harder to convince people of than standard maps. So yeah, if you want to help, join the map testing Discord, test maps, test Fog maps. But yeah, we just keep doing what we're doing, do more of it, and the game will grow.
I definitely agree. Making more tournaments and streaming them is an excellent way of bringing more people in. But I have to give huge props, and it's not just because he's here. Like the work Sneaky has been doing over time is golden for this kind of community, because it's one of the hardest things to come into such a hard game as Wargroove, is going in and not knowing anything. Because you go into quick play and you're very likely for the first time to kind of get a bit destroyed because you have no idea what you should be doing. You're probably saving money and not building stuff, hoping to make a dragon or a golem, and then you just get crushed by a bunch of soldiers or spears or whatever. And the low level teachings that you need to get to a level where you can play properly are usually the hardest part for most people to come into a game, because a lot of players are very likely to just try to play multiplayer and just lose horribly and never play again. And it's those guys I think we need to work the most.
And it's not just me, right? There's a ton of people in the Groove of War chat who will be like, hey, you want to play a game? I'm new, I want to play. Okay, I'll play a couple games with you. All right, awesome. Could you give me some advice? Sure. And like I see this almost every day. Like someone new comes in and someone who's been here for a while is pretty cool, and they play a game, and they're like, all right, if you do this and this, you'll have an easier time with that. So I think a lot of the community is really willing to help out and teach some new players some tricks.
Now, I'm going to give some people a disclaimer. It's sort of a sidebar, where people are more willing to help you play better. When it comes to map making, that's going to be one of the things where the advice that people are going to give you is going to be very strong, and it's going to really hurt you, because honestly, it's like your whole creation that you spent hours on, and to be honest, sometimes these maps that people put up are absolutely terrible, and there's no nice way of saying that this map is unplayable. Yeah, like Wargarbly just said, map advice is harsh. It is very harsh. So if you come in like trying to create maps, just realize you are going into a dangerous territory.
Yeah, and a disclaimer: the reason why this happens so much is because there are quite a few things in this game that are very particular, like the trebuchet power and stuff like that, where if you don't make your map completely in a way that controls that problem, then the map becomes unplayable, because it creates huge problems in areas that are very, very easy to exploit. So don't take it at face value, just use it as a learning experience, I guess.
I mean, as one of the map makers that got into this community, you really have to have a thick skin. You have to have no ego at all being a map maker. Like when you get advice, you just have to accept it. You have to accept that you were wrong, and you have to change something.
And I think the other thing that makes map making kind of hard is you need to be like a decent player to try to make like really good maps.
Yeah, you have to understand the game mechanics to start making good maps.
So like if you're a really new player, then it's gonna be impossible for you to make like, an excellent map. You're gonna have to first improve a bit, get to a certain level, and then you can make good maps.
Well, just to be clear, we're talking about like competitive level maps. You can still make really fun maps. Like there's been some crazy stuff by new map makers in the Community Choice Awards, like Dogball. I don't think any of us had heard of the creator until Dogball came out, and we were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" It's not like necessarily we were going to put up a tournament, although I think we did even have a TYM for that.
Yeah,
But
we did.
Yeah, we did.
Yep.
So, like, if you're trying to make maps for the World International Tournament, the Groove of War, yes, that's going to be a lot of work, a lot of growing. It's going to be difficult. But if you want to make a fun map, and you want to get to the level where you can make a fun map that people will play on, you can definitely come here and get advice on that and make a pretty cool map that you can play with your friends, that you can play just some casual map games on. Like, I don't want to scare everybody away.
I feel like I should just plug Armagon here, because he made some great videos for budding map makers. You can find them on the Chucklefish
Those
page.
videos are awesome.
I think it's more like you have to accept that when something doesn't work in a map, like you just have to accept it really doesn't work.
Well, and that's what like Red Halo was saying once again, because he's the promoter here, so we have to sort of reply to this. He says, I think people could also point out their problems in a nicer way too, and that's sort of what I started this whole off with. Sometimes when a map is just like at one glance you can see that it's unplayable, there's no FTA counter, there's something, or the map is just so poorly designed, it's just one choke point and two sides and
No rotational symmetry.
stuff like that. There is no nice way to say that this map is unplayable in a competitive sense. You just can't say that nicely, because at some point you have to say you have to change this map so much you're not even playing
It's
the
not
same
the
map
same
anymore.
map, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of just have to say it like in a matter of fact sort of way. You explain it like this doesn't work. This is why it doesn't work. Here's what you can do to potentially improve it.
Yeah, I think all of this also goes to what was talked earlier, which is access to resources. And one of the most helpful things for these new people is for sure to be able to say something like, you just need to read this, and it will give you at least bullet points. Or watch this. It's a 5-minute video that will tell you, like, you need rotational symmetry, you need FTA counter, you need, like, just small explanations that at least give an idea of what is needed. even if it's not implemented perfectly after that. Because that really changes the approach. Instead of just saying this map is unplayable, you can say, okay, you don't have your FTI counter in place, and the other guy goes like, oh, what do you mean? I don't understand what you're talking about. You can just say, okay, you need to see this, and that changes the conversation in a more constructive way. I would say.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
I mean,
That
we
would
do that
definitely
most of the
help
time, or we just tell people to check the pins in the map feedback thing.
Well, because constructive criticism isn't something that comes easily to everyone. Like everyone can criticize, but not everyone can make constructive criticism.
It's easy to say it's bad. Sometimes it's hard to explain why it's bad.
So what you guys are saying is what we really need is people training for the workers staff, right?
But
And all veteran players too.
But it comes from, but also comes from playing on good maps. Because the more you play on good maps, you just start seeing like, okay, this works on this map. So it's like you can explain why these things don't work on other maps.
Oh, by the way, welcome Time Key for showing up. Hello.
Yeah,
That's
like-
Time Key over there.
He infiltrated the cast.
All right. Well, I think that's sort of enough to go on to Red Halo's question because it got a little somewhat off topic, and that was my fault. So I'll take credit for that.
So I wanted to do this before, and I still think we need to do this. Match format. What did you guys think? Swiss. We started with Swiss, then we went into single elimination. We started with best of ones, and then we went into best of threes. Personally, I think it was fine. That part was great.
I think Swiss definitely was a good thing for the preliminaries, but it definitely needed to be a lot clearer what Swiss is, because I know a lot of people dropped out after they lost their first round, their very first match, because they thought it was best of one.
Well, we'll have to read the rules.
Yeah.
And these rules will probably be different for next tournament anyway. So.
Well, it'll be somewhat similar, but like if people don't read the rules, you can't do any extra explaining because that requires them to read it.
You can't add more text? Seriously?
I mean, if they're not going to read the rules, no matter how much text you add, they're not going to read it, right?
I would argue that adding text will probably make more people not read it.
Yeah. I mean, we just need a video format so they can watch instead of read it.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
match format,
I would do
everyone
that.
liked?
I would totally do that.
Is that what I'm getting? Everyone liked the match format? It was fine for everybody?
I think so, but I think you mentioned something earlier, Basic, before the cast, about like an uneven amount of people going through the win conditions.
Okay,
to
that's
go
not
through to the
that's
regionals.
not a match format problem. That is a problem with the way they divided the players. I think it was unfair for several people because certain brackets needed different amounts of wins and losses to go through to the second phase of the tournament, and that definitely should be something that should be looked at for the next tournament, so you don't get in a situation where you get players with completely different win-loss ratios going through to the second phase.
Yeah, so I assumed that's just part of how Swiss works. I was told. I mean, I'm not really
No, that's
understanding
not,
all
that,
that.
that doesn't have to do with Swiss.
Is there a way to make it so that depending on the bracket size, more people go through if the bracket's bigger?
So it didn't carry over after first round. You had like some weird matchups after that, and like, yeah.
Like it's unfair that people that had 3-1 had to compete on a tiebreaker, for example.
Oh yeah, we didn't preserve the Swiss rules of that like if you had to fight harder opponents, you have a better Swiss score, so it's a tiebreaker. So instead, Gimbal will decide to play tiebreak matches, but then you're at a disadvantage if you go on a tougher time bracket. Like if you go 2-1 instead of going with 1 loss and then 2 wins.
Yeah, I mean, it got weird because we had a few DQs, so that sort of throws some double DQs, which threw all those numbers out the window.
Yeah.
Well, the DQs didn't matter for that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about this, so I'm gonna hop out.
I think that the idea of bracketing and giving different schedules was a great idea. But now that they've done that, and we've seen what happens with the player distribution, they need to figure a way to even the tournament itself out, even though the brackets don't are not the same size, or at least are not similar sized.
Here's the problem, though, right? There are multiple levels of density to consider. There's the number of players in the regional bracket, and then there's the difficulty of players in the regional bracket.
That you can't
Actually,
control,
yeah.
right? That it's unavoidable.
When the tournament came out, it was said that all matches had to be played at a certain time. So as a result, you had to find a time that exactly fit you. So there was no flexibility. You wouldn't jump to an easier bracket unless you had tons of time. But after, you could arrange matches with your opponent. Like, this was already after like the first match was played. So already then, if we had known that earlier, like, I would have joined EST because I could play my matches an hour early.
Yeah, I would have, like, I ended up joining GMT, but initially I was gonna join EST because of that, because I was told there was no flexibility. Like, these are the
Yeah.
things that I'm talking about that should be worked on, that might change the distribution of players into a more even state.
Also, I know
Yeah,
like,
like-
Gimbal, like loser bracket is unworkable because of grand finals reset, but I still think like we should try as much as possible to get a loser bracket because I think it's unfortunate that like players can just like have like can get like they win all the way, but then they get a one like bad bad matchup or one bad set, and that's it. They're out of the tournament. I think it's a bit anticlimactic. I think like a winners bracket would be like and a losers bracket would be nice to have. And I think like maybe you could do like some pseudo thing where like Swiss where Gimbal City wants to do 2 matches, so like that'll be 30-minute chess, then top 16, top 8, top 4, and like winners finals. That'll be 45-minute chess and best of 3. But then for grand finals, it's 30-minute chess again, and you do
Best of luck.
well best of 3. But then if you have a reset, then it'll be uh, 3 more games. So like that could still be a bit excessive because it's like 6 hours max, and Gimbal City wants to play them all on one day. But like
Why? I don't understand that.
I don't know, he feels it's a necessity. But I think like
No, it's not.
that'll be a good way because you keep the time under control. You give people more matches, and you give the competitors like if you get bad bracket luck, you're not screwed.
Yeah, I definitely see them adding a
But like
double
if me
elimination.
went up against each other, we were on the same side of the bracket, we would have had like an anticlimactic kind of thing, like where you maybe have been, and there were like I think some other moments also because like the EST side and PST were like a bit weaker, where like maybe people on GMT or AWST could have kept going, but they didn't have another chance. So yeah.
I mean, do you think the Swiss rounds were too little? We only had 4 rounds, right? So people might have thought that would have been too short, right?
Well,
Maybe
Gimbal said we're gonna
you're
so
right.
that'll
Maybe
be
5 rounds, 6 rounds potentially. But then the two matches thing might not be like viable with that. So I don't know about that one.
I actually really like the two matches thing. The idea that you play both sides every time, because that eliminates the situation where one side is better than the other.
I don't think it should be like 2 sides. I think just like each player can choose gets to choose player A or player B once. So you get rid of the coin flip, but then you can like so if one player wants, they can get to counterpick the opposing commander twice. So it doesn't have to be like picking each side. But
That
yeah,
doesn't fix the problem. Like
number of rounds because Swiss is designed to have a certain number of rounds for a certain number of players. So you can't extend number of rounds, but you'll get more games by doing best of 2. Or not best of 2, by doing 2 games. So you have a score that's either 0-2, 1-1, or 2-0.
I really like the players switch sides for one simple reason, because I felt this in a lot of maps in the tournament. Like I had a side that was way better than the other, and sometimes I was allowed to play on that side, and the other times I wasn't, and that was completely luck based. And making all the games always play both sides eliminates that part of the luck.
Explain, you played 4 matches this tournament, so explain like this consideration you're talking.
What that basically on all 4 maps I had one of the sides that was better than the other. Personally,
Yeah, explain each map.
what do you mean? Explain each map.
Oh my God! No, let's not get into this. I think in reference he's thinking about things like both Before the Flood and Cloak and
Cloak and
Dagger,
Dagger.
which we've talked to death about, and I really don't want to have to stop us from talking
I
about
had
this again.
different openings on both sides on almost all the maps. For example,
I think I proved in the finals that Before the Flood doesn't have any advantage for player 1.
I don't think you proved any of that. Bold claims.
All right, we're not talking about maps. Okay, you know what?
Okay,
I see what you're saying. We're talking about the Swiss round format. Yeah, maybe there's a few games, but the truth is, like, the Swiss rounds are supposed to be fast, and yeah, there's some consideration that stronger players might lose to like Science or Cheese or any of these builds, but at that point, I'm going to argue that they're not a strong player anymore. That part of being good at this game requires you to figure out these things. Figure out either be it prep or anything of that sort, be it prep or just being in the Discord and watching other matches. That is part of being a good player. So if you think that like a good player didn't get through because they got cheesed on Cloak and Dagger, well, unfortunately, that's, in my opinion, then they're not as good of a player.
Good player, like you,
I couldn't disagree more.
a very good player. Like you make top 16, you make top 8. You're able to play your openings like without that much prep, or you're able to do good prep, or you're able to play well on the fly. Like, you know what's happening in the opening, and you know how to react. You know that, like on Cloak and Dagger, if there's units near HQ, maybe you have to defend it. Maybe there's some threats going on.
You don't need to go to specific maps here. I think conceptually, this argument makes very little sense. Like the idea that that a single map, like some knowledge that you don't have, gives you a loss, and somehow because you got that loss, now you're a worse player, makes no sense to me. Like just because you didn't know the science of that specific map and you lost because of it, that means you're not a good player. Like that makes no sense. Like you're
I mean,
excellent
it
in
means
every
you- it
map
means
but
you haven't-
one. Yeah.
Right.
Like
I said
come
top
on.
8 or top 15 player. Like yeah, if you have to be able to play on maps, you have to be able to adapt to situations, and if you get cheesed, then like there was a reason for it, and unless it was some crazy like FTA, then you could have done something.
Like, to be fair though, not every player knows every cheese, and I guarantee that there is a point in time where almost everyone in this chat has found a strategy that nobody else knew until they used it. Did that make them the best player in the world at that moment? I don't think so. On the other hand, cheese is valid. You can use it if you take the time to figure out a cool strategy. That's not easy to do if you're the originator. If you did research, okay, that's doing research. That's good. It's not as good as inventing it, but it's good. But at the same time, not everybody knows every cheese. I think if a player gets eliminated from one match, and that match was a cheese, it would be a little bit awkward to say that, okay, yep, you're gone.
You suck.
That's why I really like the best of 3 is at least for the when we leave Swiss, because you have another game if something happens weird. If there was an RNG lethal that shouldn't have happened, or an RNG lethal fail that was like a 95% chance and it didn't work. Since just because there's randomness in this game, I feel like you should have at least a best of 3 to eliminate somebody. Otherwise, there is that factor, and it's probabilistically going to hit at least one person.
You think extending the Swiss rounds would help with that? Since, I mean, you do get to play more, right?
I think it would
And-
definitely help. But again, I don't think that making more rounds is better than just making the players play more. Like the idea of playing on both sides, like you guys turned it into a cheese conversation, but I wasn't going there at all. Like I don't think the map needs to have a cheese on one side for this concept of playing both sides still making sense. Like it doesn't need to be a Cloak and Dagger or or an old Gilgamesh with Valder conversation or something like that. I think all maps are inherently slightly different on both sides. You usually don't want to do the exact same thing. Sometimes because like on New Gilgamesh you can make a Denite slightly earlier than the other guy. Stuff like that. Change the way you play on both sides, and if both players play on both sides, so that is immediately eliminated. And it's just adding a game. It's not something like super revolutionary. You're not changing the wheel. You're just adding a game.
Well, I think there's a mid ground here. I do actually like the whole you play on both sides things, and once again, that even defends the cheese argument that if they choose you on one match, then you just cheese them back on the other one. I think you have to find the balance between having too many games to play before getting to semifinals, or like just too many matches to happen. Like maybe that's not a concern for some people here, but I'm just like there's just too many there could be a possible to have too many matches before getting into the finals and semifinals.
Do you think that was the case this time, or that at least we were close to it?
I don't think this time. I think this time was better, and I could easily see a few more matches being added. Like, but if it still comes down to the problem like we had this time, where if we double the amount of matches because you're playing on both sides,
but we're not.
And then there's
the
still
amount
a time
of days,
player?
by the way. We're just adding time on each specific day, right?
Well, what do you mean? Because you're playing on both sides.
You're playing on both sides, but on the same day.
Okay, yes, but you're adding. That's twice as many matches, unless I'm missing something.
No, it's twice as many maps played. Sure, but
Oh yeah,
you're
sorry,
not adding
not matches, games.
You're
Sorry,
not
twice as
adding
many games
days
played.
to the tournament. That's what I mean. The tournament takes the exact same amount of time.
Well, not necessarily, especially with the timer. You're considering now I have to take 3 hours out of my day instead of
2.
1.5 or 2 or whatever it is.
No, I understand that. I'm saying that the tournament itself takes the same time, but the players have to spend some more time playing.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm going with. That's the other line that I'm talking about. You have to find the line between, is that too inhibitive for our population to say somebody knows that they have to commit that much time on a day in order to play?
Time is a
In
big
the
deal
tournament.
for me. Like in the previous tournament, I was working in every time zone. I kid you not, every time zone. So like just finding an hour I could be guaranteed free was hard. Now that was an extreme like pandemic situation, but when you start going into the multiples of hours and you want to do that during the week, it's difficult.
Arrange a match. So like that's the whole thing. You have a whole week to play the match. So
You also can make it so that you don't have to play both sides on the same day. There are options.
like if
Well,
you,
I think this is what we're talking about. This is a lot to consider. Is there are other factors in? Yes, I think there is more merit in playing both sides, but that does take away from something else in the tournament, and that's
It has a
the
cost.
speediness of it.
Yeah, it has.
It has a cost.
Not free.
Something I just interrupted somebody else who was saying something.
Yeah, because like because Fader posted it in the group chat right now. What Mastro posted.
Well, we didn't know it was from Mastro until Mastro admitted it
Yeah.
in Twitch, because all these things are anonymous. So first off, we're not gathering your information and blasting y'all. But it was what was said is I think the Swiss had very few rounds with only 4 rounds. Each individual round is important, and you run the risk of top players not making the cut because of a careless loss or new science, even if their overall performance is deserving of top cut. So that's sort of what we were discussing that. We were discussing that without directly using the quote. And I think there is merit in that statement. Just as I said, I think we have to consider what do we give up by making people play more rounds, especially in the early phases when there's a lot of low skill people in there.
Yeah.
But that's something you can't really predict. you know, you just roll with it, and you just sort of see it.
Okay, we've talked a lot about this, so let's move to the other non-controversial topic. What do you guys think about the timer?
I mean, people
Timer-
already talked about this on Discord in the main war group. It's pretty much unanimously agreed that it made everything better.
Yeah, timer way better. We should probably play on like maps that are more like Gilgamesh, and Cloak and Dagger. For the next, and I guess before the flood, if we can attack the HQ better.
Not on 30
Exactly.
minutes. No, not before the flood. Nah.
Better then for sure. Like for the more exposed HQ. But like stuff like that, then like 30 minutes is perfect. So yeah, we just have a whole map full of that, and then yeah, that'll work well. But like 45-minute timer also is good because then like you're not gonna have a major threat of like timeout strats, and you see better quality play.
Oh, I don't agree with that. You'll see better quality play in high-level players, and you'll see worse level play in low-level players. Because they'll have more
Word.
time to still make the same bad play. And this is not a diss on bad players, by the way. I'm just saying that a lot of times you're searching for a play that you're never gonna get there. You're just wasting time.
I think that what Bazik is saying is true, and I think what Math is saying is true. I think there is, once again, a mid ground in there.
Yeah, it's not clear.
Now, potentially, what could happen is we could have different timers for different maps.
Oh yeah, I've
So-
said that in the past. Yeah, I agree.
I'm
I
in
agree.
the boat of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Different
Yeah,
maps, different timer.
Yeah, that's something we've discussed before. Like, I don't know, let's say, for example, before the flood is 45 minutes, we should say, if we were using that in a tournament, use 45 minutes for this map. This is what's required for this map.
I mean, like, if there's like 6 maps in the pool, like 4 of them could be 30 and then 2 of them could be 45. Right? I don't think it's that hard to ask for. Right?
By the way, none of you have brought this up because I know a lot of you like chess timers, but we should also wait to see what happens in the tournaments that do 3-minute turn timers. Because a lot of people are afraid that the games will last forever because you can technically make the game last forever, 100 turns. But I think we need to see what happens with those games.
Well, 3-minute turn timer is going to be longer than 45-minute chess for the problem scenarios, the games that go the full time of 30-minute chess. That's where 3-minute turn timer is unrestrained and it can go a lot longer. And people don't care. They'll grind it out. Like if I have 3-minute turn timer, I'm gonna play super slow and before the flood, and maybe we go an extra hour because I'll just grind it out on economy, and not take any risks.
Yeah. I think we've
I-
speculated a lot on
yeah.
this. I want to see games
Yeah.
played.
I think Basic has a point that there is some room for testing in this, and there's also a lot of it. It's sort of like being afraid of Tenry, is that there's a lot of preconceived notions about what turn timers do based on a previous experience. That makes us not think so. But once again, things are different now. The gameplay is different. The player skill has gone up. So it's worth something to explore, and it's definitely not worth something to keep talking about right now because we're not trying to be here for 4 hours. All right, what's this next one? Players. Well, obviously the
just wanna
best
say
player
this.
got 3rd place.
Next tournament, I want all the good players back in because I've heard too much about them and I've never seen them play. So Red Gems, you're forced to come in this tournament. I don't care. So I don't care if you have work or whatever. You need to play on the next tournament. And
Red
this
Gems is
message
a
goes
good
to
player.
Zeronix
What are you
too.
talking about?
So, people, get your act together. You need to start participating.
Okay, realize Red Gems only won Groove of War 3 because Zeronix got disqualified, alright?
Yeah.
Shots fired.
And it was 5-minute turn timer, right? And it was double elim, right?
Yeah, you almost
Yeah.
lost one round too. Because you almost lost on Merchant Mountain. I remember because Lewis had an RNG lead. Lewis missed an RNG lethal.
Oh, is that the Gimbal Gasp?
No, it wasn't
Or-
that one.
oh.
The Gimbal Gasp was like in the 19. I remember that was 19 by 19
It was 19 by 19. Lynx
because
versus
I
Rage.
clipped that. I clipped that.
Okay, that one was okay. That match. Okay, that's history.
That's history.
Okay, now real
Anyways,
talk. I really like that most of the serious players in the community participated. I think the attendance was awesome. We also saw a lot of good new players, which really impressed me in a lot of cases. And I really hope we keep this going, so we can have more of that. And I think player-wise, it was awesome.
I think we need more AWBW players. Like, clearly, we have the top 2 players
Biased.
from AWBW. Just need more. We need DPSI to start playing, since he stopped it since February. We need Leandri to get a PC and start playing. And,
Is Leandro good
yeah.
at AWBW?
Yeah,
They
but,
talk a
like,
lot
as
on
good as he is, we did it better.
Okay, just
Yeah, they
wondering.
talk a lot in Discord. Yeah, they've been talking a lot in the Discord. I lurked the AWBW Discord.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well,
I also
anyways,
played.
that's
I played Black Hole Sammy like a few months ago, and even though it was like their first Wargroove game, they had like the basics down.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
sure
not
they
gonna-
would learn this game in a month. It would be awesome at
Yeah,
this game.
but
That's
the
for
only
sure.
mistakes they made is because they didn't know like damage values, so they made like really some bad moves because of that. But other than that, it was a very solid play.
Yeah.
Wasn't that how I was playing when I came to World Group? Like, I didn't know the damage table, but like, I was not playing badly, and I beat some people. Like, I beat Vito when he was like practicing for Group of War 3.
That's not saying much though.
We were playing on
You-
Less's dad and Green Finger. He was using Lucia.
You beat me on Sank. I remember that because I like overextended with. Oh no, you surrounded me with, or something like that, and I'd never healed. It was great.
Early on, like Sank was already in August. Like in
Oh,
July.
I don't know.
Time Key, and like I beat him on like After the Flood, the original version. They got featured.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that.
Master of Math in brag mode.
Yeah. Anyways,
beat everyone.
so I think we had a lot of players. I expect a lot of new players a lot of players who came in this tournament. Like maybe not all of them, but I'd say about 25% of them to continue to play. Like we still see some of them in the Discord looking for matches. So I think there's a lot of people who played, and some of them who are like watching now, maybe like Zested and stuff like that, who have an active interest in getting better. So I am expecting more players, or at least repeat players, and potentially we might get some of the good players coming back, especially after how popular this tournament was.
And hopefully new players. Of those 60 people that were watching, a lot of them were not players during this tournament, and hopefully they just lost the opportunity to enter this one, and next one they'll be on.
A lot of people, like off the top of my head, you have like Captain Rainbow, TFJ, Space.
I will be an inch.
I will be a ninja. And then there's people who didn't play. We have also Data Gloves. Then you have people who didn't play but are like very promising and improving very fast, like Mastro, who I see in the chat. Some other people.
Oh, we would get more Gobbly to play.
Yeah.
Space Front is also a new player, right?
Well, he was in the tournament, yeah. And then you also have like Jortson. He has a really good understanding of Wargroove, even though he's new. Like he really has a really good strategic understanding. He knows what's going on. He just needs to be more familiar, but he'll be a really good player. So looking good.
Awesome stuff.
Yes, join the next tournament and make me not go out of Swiss. That's the goal, right?
So, next topic, organization. I have mostly good things to say about them. I think the bad things were said earlier about the timers and the scheduling stuff. That was the only problem I had with them. Otherwise, I really like how this tournament was organized, and I hope they keep it up.
Thank you. Much
Yeah.
appreciate the team. I know it's
Yeah,
hard.
I like everybody
Yeah.
except that one guy who's like I don't know what it's like, dimming star or something like that. That guy sucks.
Yeah, I hear that guy's terrible.
You wanted to be a black hole, but instead is a dimming star.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa, is that the origin of your name? I had no idea. Was that a black hole reference?
It's actually the name of some random sci-fi novel that I found one day when I was like 18 years old,
Nice.
and I used it ever since.
History time.
Yeah, I mean, the organizers learned a lot from Groove of War 3.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean,
Yeah.
5 minutes. Kind
Oh,
of long.
No, like I remember you have 3 days to finish your matches, and there were matches that went over a week.
Oh god, I think that was the first thing they cut, right? Is no more async matches in Groove of War.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that
so
was- that
good.
was
That is
terrible.
so good.
It's
Yeah.
5 minutes plus you have a yellow card, which is like you can spend like up to 10 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No,
Faded probably can tell you all the decisions they made.
So let's use this to move to the next topic, scheduling. So what did you guys think about making the one match a week? If I remembered this correctly, Groove of War 3
Yeah, it
was
was-
2 matches a week, so that was a change. And the scheduling of time zones. Personally, I liked all of those changes. What do you guys think about it?
It was good. The only scheduling challenge was against TFJ because he's 13 hours off of my time. And like it was fine because I thought I could just wake up early, but then I got sick. So it was kind of annoying. But yeah.
That's what happened with me too.
Yeah, that's just more like that's more like an unfortunate accident. Like, you got matched up with someone from a different time zone.
But we also had a lot of time. Like, I think for my match versus him, I had 2 weeks to find a time for him. So it's not like it was unavoidable. I think this was probably the best possible scenario we could have for scheduling. Like, I originally was not going to join this tournament because my normal schedule would not allow me to play on the times that people would be playing. So I think this schedule and the option for you to choose what tournament or what time zone to be in worked. Yeah, the rules got super lax, and I assume that was directly related to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was the best case scenario is what happened.
Yeah, because I don't think there was a single problem this tourney because of scheduling.
And there were a lot in Groove of War 3.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah.
Indeed.
Yep.
Indeed.
Yeah, this ran infinitely smoother than Groove of War 3.
All right, I mean, I think that touches that one. I think we're all
Yeah.
on agreeance there.
It was a straight up improvement, and
Well, I will say anybody who is in the C bracket or the Korean bracket, I want you guys all to move because I wasn't able to watch
The
your
Australia
games 'cause
bracket.
they were Australia, whatever it was. They were way too early in the morning for me. So
it was
Oh,
11
you know-
It was 11 a.m. for me. I have no idea what you're talking about.
11 a.m.
You're
for
not
you,
in
yeah.
NA. Not in NA. Okay,
Well,
I'm not gonna wake up 6 a.m. to watch some Wargroove match, man. Let me sleep.
Well,
Even I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
I wake up early. Well, I'm relatively early, like at 8 a.m. and even I missed those matches.
well, PST was 5 a.m. for me, so it wasn't all roses.
I mean, if it was 2 a.m., man, I could stay up and wait and watch that, you know. But I work at night, so I'm like a second shift, so that doesn't. That's actually a me problem, not a you guys problem. But you never heard me say that.
Right?
Yep.
So, anyone
Uh,
want to talk about something that we haven't discussed yet about Groove of War 4?
Shoes emote that he won.
Cursed.
It's cursed. Yep, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about.
Is it
You-
already chosen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you
You
not
didn't-
seen
you-
it in the
I haven't
chat?
seen it.
Okay.
How have you not seen it?
I haven't really been paying attention.
I even went on the Discord, like the main Wargroove quick. Someone posted shoes emote.
Okay, I'll check it after.
Okay,
But basically-
my
but-
emote's still the best. Okay, like
Yeah, but Shu, funnily enough, he changed his profile pic like what, a week ago, like 10 days ago or something.
Like a week before the match.
He was convinced
yes,
he was gonna win.
That's cursed.
He was
Howard
confident.
got that little extra he needed to go fast. So Thomas, he's needed for speed.
Yeah. He goes fast. All right. Let's see. I don't think there's anything else unless we wanted to What's on this next page here?
It's maps, I think. I think we're gonna use Faded Sun's knowledge to help us.
Oh yeah, survey. Do the survey, please. Do the survey, please. I'm
Again,
a hypocrite. I still
we
didn't
talked
do
about
yet,
it.
But do the survey, please.
yeah, do the
This-
survey.
Yeah.
There's a survey. Do it.
Do it twice.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Maps, how and why they're made.
Just do it.
I mean, that was sort of we were just sort of wondering what to say, and also, come on, let me edit this. New text box. Put this thing here again. Survey. That's not how you spell survey.
Yeah. Survive.
Help me. All right. Anyways, so I guess since we had you here, Faded, and you made half the maps that were in this tournament, and Exmo made the other half, and we know that he will never be on voice chat.
That is true.
I guess we're going to ask you questions. This is just going to be an AMA, I guess, that you did not agree to.
I'll do my best.
Impromptu.
Yeah, impromptu AMA. So I guess one question I just want to start off with is seeing how timers and all that came into effect, and there were a few timeouts, especially in some higher level play games. In the future, is that going to be a concern or something that's strongly considered, depending on like the timer format, like that will play into the maps? When you
Sure.
make
That's a fair question. Watching people play on my maps, like Rustic or Before the Flood, and seeing timeouts, it's kind of anxiety inducing for me, especially when I see how people react to it, what they think about it. But I also don't want to design my maps around a specific timer, like on purpose. Like if Before the Flood plays better on a 45-minute timer, then that's just how it is. I'm sure I could redesign it to play better on 30, but like that's not what I'm designing the map around when I start designing one. But it does seem like a good idea going forward to consider a timer when you are making your map. Like if you're going to make a map for Groove of War, you have to consider the timer when you're designing it.
I think it's more you don't design around a timer. It's just that when we're picking the maps, we have to consider the timer. And for Groove of War 4, we didn't have many options. We had to just took what we knew worked and ran with it. So like we knew Iranian worked, we knew Before the Flood worked, we knew Cloak seemed to work, and it did work. Gilgamesh also seemed to work, and in 1.3, and we changed it and it worked. So, yeah.
But before we do decide our pool, we are testing these maps with the timers to make sure that they do work well on a timer.
I have a quick question about this. That's very related. Do you take into consideration any kind of expected amount of turns? Like this map usually should take around between 10 and 12 turns in a normal game, or this is going to be a fast map, so I expect it to end on 8-10 turns, stuff like that, or not at all?
No, not really. When I test my maps, when I self-test my maps, I maybe only play about maybe half a game. I don't play a game against myself into completion, so I don't generally know how long a map could potentially play. I guess that's up to the community to help me figure that out, to see if some maps can draw out longer than I thought. Like, for example, Rustic, I didn't even realize that was a slow map. I didn't realize that until people started playing it.
Jeez. What a bad map designer.
I can't really tell when a map finishes because with like games only end turn 10 or 12. Someone made massive errors, or there's a like major F tier or S tier or something, but that doesn't happen. So someone made big mistakes, and other than that, you can't really know when it'll end because with good play, you're going to be drawing the game out.
No, I don't mean like knowing the specific turn it will end. I mean like like the expectancy. Like the old Gilgamesh, I think is a good example of a fast map. Even when Valder wasn't playing, the games were being played a bit too fast. At least that's what I was told. So
commanders HQ rush.
like you can kind of make the map around, like if you make the HQ more exposed, that will shorten the average map length. If I don't know if I'm explaining this properly, but you can have an idea if you're making a longer map or a slower map by adding or removing some features, I would imagine.
Right,
Yeah,
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
You
Basically,
can delay the length of the game, but you have to get to a certain point where you can kill the HQ, and in a normal map balanced, that requires some advantage, and to get an advantage, it takes time, and depending on the skill level, it takes longer, and the skill gap. So you can't plan around it. Like if you make a map smaller, then the game will be shorter. Usually,
I
then you
think
have
you need
also
to
a
design all
but
maps for high skill level though.
that's not true because there's less going on, a bit less dynamic, so you just kind of sit more. So the good maps, like with the most stuff going on, will end a bit faster. It's easier to get advantage. That's why I really like Cloak, and because it was complicated, lots of stuff going on, so it's dynamic, and you get an advantage, and you can win the game fast. But like Cloak can also be like a real slugfest if you're super even. Maybe you both get Treb suddenly because you're so even, and yeah, but it gives the best opportunity to get advantages.
Cloak is still a fairly fast map, even now.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so that sort of great response, Faded. Do we have any other questions for him, or do we just wrap this up?
Oh, do we?
Faded,
Do you,
what's
I
your
mean,
idea about the mid? Do you like
about the
open
what?
mids? Do you like open mids, closed mids? How many fronts do you think a map should have? Stuff like that.
Oh, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, a good map should at least have two fronts, right? you don't want one single front to fight on.
What if the front is the whole map? It's just a really wide front. Is that still one front?
But then if it's really wide, then it'll just naturally divide in 2 or 3.
What if you have a map that doesn't have a front but has 3 sides and a back?
That's the front.
What if you have a map that is just all FTA? Like there's no, you don't even interact with opponent's army. It's just who can kill the enemy's headquarters faster. Without
Interesting game.
Zero fronts.
Yeah, that's my next map design. Just 2 commanders and 2 HQs.
I think this my question devolved a little bit, just slightly, just a smidge. So
I mean, yours wasn't even a question.
if I need to be more precise, what I meant was, do you feel there's a need to for at least to have it 2 attack pads? I think you answered that part fairly clearly. But my question would be if having 3 attack pads, for example, one in the mid and the sides, like you would like. For example, in BTF, you clearly can't attack through the mid. You have to go through the sides. But on Gilgamesh, that's not the case at all. Because you can certainly go through the mid, but the sides are heavily contested throughout the game. So, how important it is to close off the mid or the sides, that's more in line of what I was asking.
I feel like that's up to the design of the map itself, and if it works on the map. Like if opening the center works for the map, then so be it. That's just how it has to be.
No, sorry, continue. I have something to say about this.
Yeah, go ahead, Ridgen.
Okay, so from my experience, I'm not a map maker, right? But from my experience, 3 fronts is really hard to balance. Just because
that's definitely true. That's definitely true.
You have 2 barracks with 3 fronts. 1 barracks is going to cover 2. Right? You can't do 1.5, 1.5. That's just not going to happen. Right? If you do that, then first player advantage or second player advantage will take over. And that's the problem with 3 fronts, right? If you have 2 barracks, someone's going to have an advantage somehow. It might be a minor one, might be a big one, but it's there, right?
Yeah, and that's very difficult to balance.
And if you make 3 barracks with 3 fronts, then that's a different issue because it's 3
Yeah,
pairs.
that's just butterfly, for example. It had 3 fronts. 3 full
No,
fronts, I would say.
No, butterfly had like a really long front. It wasn't really, and it had naval fronts also.
But
It
yeah,
was, like,
Butterfly
a
had
lot
5
more-
fronts.
Yeah, if you want to go that far. I was dividing the like 2 sides on the seas and 1 in the middle, but okay, we can say 5.
Actually, it was like I guess you can call the middle a front, but yeah, I never had FTA or STA issues.
Yeah, I don't
But,
think that's accurate because Gilgamesh has three clear fronts, 3 clear important defensible parts on the sides and definitely the center. And I don't think Gilgamesh has a balance problem right now.
I think it's more fair to call it like it has 2 like each side is a front, but center is center. It like connects the fronts, so you don't count that.
Okay, maybe the problem is the definition here. What I mean is three contestable positions. It doesn't mean that you need that position to win the game, but that position is important enough that you feel you need to also defend it. That's what I call fronts. I don't know if
Now,
people were
the
using
only
different
way to get
definitions.
more than like 3 fronts on a reasonable sized map would have to be mixed base. And I mean, I sort of want to see a mixed base for Groove War 5, even though I know they're very, very, very hard to balance.
Yeah, you get Asgard Rising, I think, at that point.
It's really long play. Like 45-minute timer, you can make it work, but yeah, it takes a long time to play those maps. Like Asgard, we would have included it, but we wanted to make a few edits, but also we didn't really make those edits because you need 45-minute timer for that map. 30 minutes is not enough. You just time out. And that 45 minutes might not even be enough for Inner Universe. So yeah, they take a long time to play. If you're playing at a high level.
Hmm.
But,
Okay,
yeah,
I was about to say because I didn't take that long on those maps, but yeah, I was just sort of moving stuff.
But yeah, like you're not gonna have timeout issues in most games. Like we only like you saw in me versus Shu before the flood having timeout issues, and also in Killsauce versus Shu. None of the other games we saw like timeouts on before the flood. So you need really high level stuff. But on like designing maps and traits, I find work well. Like as a person who plays a lot of different maps, I find like in general, it's easiest to make a map that like functions well and flows well. If you have an open center, when you close off the center, it's easy to make a map that's disjointed. It kind of hard. It makes it hard to interact, and you can easily have a position where it's hard to create advantages. Like before the flood has that major problem, even though the center is not totally closed off. New Hallowed Ruins has that issue because you can't sit in the center at all. And then on other map features, like you want to make sure income isn't too low, so you probably want at least 400 income per racks, probably a few hundred for the tower. Like that's why you see a lot of maps on the lower end they stick with like 1100, 1200 income, 1500, but they also go up to maybe like 1800 income, and that's just like 2 racks in a tower. Yeah, and like in general, you don't want commanders facing off of the center because that's going to be free FTA, STA issues. But make sure they stick to the sides for the first little bit.
Yeah, you tend to get more interesting gameplay when your commanders start moving to the sides and then gradually move to the center.
Okay, I guess. I mean, I don't know if anybody has any other questions. I guess
I
the
have
thing
one actually.
Oh, wait, didn't Red Jams have something to say?
Wait, didn't I say it?
Maybe.
Okay, well, I have another question. Like,
Go ahead.
I could go ahead. So a lot of people have been asking, right, about hideouts and rifles and thieves.
Oh yeah.
So we have, I mean, it's a valid concern about rifles, but then another idea comes up, was like, hey, why don't we just make a hideout that you can't make
Rifles and only make
on?
thieves.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, even
And
Chucklefish
then-
asked that question. I remember in the finals they asked like, "Oh, what's your guys' opinions on hideouts?"
Right, they did, yes.
Right. Because they don't produce what's it called? They don't produce gold, and you're not gonna increase your combat ability when you make a thief in the front line, right? So
Right.
would like making a hideout a contestable key area be a thing?
It's something I've thought about, and I've discussed it with other map makers if that could be a thing. I remember talking with Alsame about a contestable hideout, and he thought it'd be interesting, since it's there's just 2 units there that aren't totally game changing.
I think it's a major problem if you make a contestable hideout, because you get the hideout, and then you move a thief, and then you ransack a village, because it's in the front lines.
Yeah, it's too
So
close.
you just go to the village, and then you go deposit the money right away. And like that's gonna be crazy, and you're gonna snowball like crazy. And then you could build a rifle, or like rifles might be banned, but you can also build a rifle right in the center of the map, and suddenly you control the whole map right away. No mages, no spears allowed, no swords. It'd be crazy.
Right. Rifles would be like a problem, right, in that situation. But then
I've heard that a
mean,
lot,
I'm
but I'm still not convinced that rifles aren't as huge of a problem that as people say they are.
Okay, well it's a timer. Like no one played Rustic because they didn't want to get timed out. No one played Iranian to the point that you because they didn't want
Rifles
to
were
get timed out.
necessary. Yeah.
Like rifles
Same
are
with
like a turn 10 play or later. And
Yeah.
you were talking about how games are ending turn 12. So yeah, if games end turn 12, you never build rifles. But if you get a
Same
game
with Cloak and Dagger.
I think
I think
unless
like-
the game is heavily stalled, if by turn 10 you're making rifles, you're usually going to lose the game because you're sinking golds into stuff where you need units. Because at that point you're being heavily attacked and the hideout is completely out of the way.
I mean, even Cloak and Dagger.
Like Cloak
Like,
and
people
Dagger
di-
has a good place for the hideout actually. And the problem
But
is you
you
can't
won't.
make them.
Because it's not capped. You have to go out of your way to
You,
cap
you
them.
just
and-
die.
For Cloak and Dagger, we didn't see it because we didn't see like the super high level long Cloak and Dagger games. The Shu didn't want to play on it, and yeah, because we had the one I played against TFJ, but he gave his commander early. Like yeah, Cloak and Dagger, the rifle spot is like really good because they build spears and then you just build a rifle. A bit after.
But that's the thing.
Yeah, rifle-
Even though rifles are actually very decent, if not even good, on Cloak and Dagger, even then, you don't even build them every single game. Like, I just think that they're not the problem some people think they are. Some people think they're like unreasonable and they would break the game completely and whatnot. And I don't see that happening right now. Maybe I'm
But I think,
completely
like, the
wrong,
cl-
but I don't think we have information to make that
You
assessment.
break the game every
But I think
time.
the-
Like
Well, to
same
quote,
thing
to
with
quote
Guru
more.
and Ryota. Like we can unban we could have unbanned Ryota and you would only see a problem when you get to like me playing him and Shu playing him and like probably a few other people. But yeah, for all of Swiss you wouldn't see a problem. And for top 16 you might have not seen a problem. But once you get into top 8, top 4 and the finals you see a problem.
That example would be good if you weren't talking about Ryota.
That
Ryota-
You would
example
see
would
a
be good
problem
if you
everywhere.
is one of those people.
Ryota's win con is you have to if the game ends by turn 12, Ryota's not that good.
Are you saying there are only like 4 people that can use the power of Ryota?
No, but if you like throw the game, then like having Ryota or not doesn't matter. But like if you can survive past like if you're gonna lose turn 10 or lose turn 12 or lose turn like 14, then Ryota is not gonna do much for you. Because like Ryota's he's the most crazy if he just kills the game and then he sits back and then he just dashes over all your stuff and you lose.
But he's still super strong. Like,
It's not
Yeah,
early
okay.
game. Like, Nuru
Okay, we're
and
getting off topic.
Peter and like just run over him early game.
Where are we going with this?
yeah, I have
Yeah,
no
we
idea.
got off topic.
I have no
We
idea.
got off topic
Man, I
off
wanted to talk about
hideouts.
thieves,
Yeah,
and then we
hideouts.
start talking about Ryota.
Yeah, and honestly, I only
Thieves, man.
responded because I think the Ryota example is not a good example. I totally,
Hey.
I totally
Drop
think
it.
there is a good example, but that's not it.
I will turn this car around. All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
what do we wanted to talk about thieves. I want to see more design space for thieves. So maybe yes, what Red Jams is saying, and maybe we have like a what was that map? Backlash, which had the Nexus.
Oh, wait, which one?
No, yeah, no, not Nexus.
Ne-
Backlash was the one that had the fort that was on fire, or the hideout that was on fire that couldn't do anything except return money to. So that might be like a sort of a good sort of be a
Compromise.
good mid ground between like you can actually make a thief viable, because the biggest problem with the thief is that
Yeah, they
in
have
order to
dump-
slow down rifles, you slow down thieves a lot, and so a thief, even if it gets a building, it takes forever to actually get that money.
I actually think thieves were very good in Nexus. That mistake of talking about Nexus was actually like not a mistake at all. Nexus was actually one of the better maps for thieves.
But yeah, with Backlash, this is the map testing problem. I need people to test maps with. Like, actually during the podcast spoke to Exmo, and he's like, Backlash. I need to see more high level games here. So yeah, it's another thing. More people to test with. We need more people, and then you can see more thieves and you can see more cool stuff. But if we can't test these stuff and these cool things, then you won't see them because we have to play it more safe because no one wants to see like crazy cheese and yeah.
or like rifles, or stalemate, but with rifles.
Right, stare downs. Stare downs are the worst.
Right.
Pterodons are awesome.
The thing
kid.
about back to thieves. The thing about designing around thieves is that you kind of have to heavily consider it when you're designing the map. You have to go into your map thinking like, okay, I'm going to design this around thieves being good. Otherwise, you don't know if they're going to be useful on your map or not.
Right, because you don't want to have like a unit and it's like it ends up not making the map more interesting.
Exactly. And by virtue of trying to make thieves good, you're also potentially making rifles super oppressive. So it's a very difficult balancing act.
It's not about making thieves good. Like so far, we had like rifle. Like if you ban rifles, then you can make thieves really good. Or if you have like a map like Backlash, it's like a more forward hideout. So you build a thief, and then you can deposit the money somewhere much closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, without like banning any units, it's hard to make them good because you have to put them like in the middle of nowhere, which is what happened on like Cloak and Dagger. It was really far back. So for rifles, it was still fine, but for thieves, it hurt them a lot. And then
On Iranian Labyrinth, like you could build a thief, but you have to hop over the
gate.
Over the gate, and you have to take. It's just so far back to walk back to get 400 gold.
Yeah.
So you're having this unit that it's like negative 300 gold for them, but it's 400 gold for you. That's not doing much either.
Is you don't have to do anything, and thieves are already like super bork. Like they're crazy. Like I made a fog map, my latest map, a remake of a Minotaur for fog, and I put like the hideout in like a crazy spot because like thieves are insane in fog.
Oh my god! Yeah, like even like.
Yeah, they're fixing that.
Oh yeah,
Haven't they already fixed it on PC?
It's not the scouting issue. It's the instant decap and the 6.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's the fact that you do a 600 gold swing. So any
And
village
because
you have
and because feed reduces your vision too. It's just an instant decap minus 300 and vision reducing all in one.
Yeah, that's the problem. Because then you can't just punish. You need to get vision to punish.
And right now, the way thieves function in fog is that it can see right through the fog and know that it can decap that village. Like you're not scouting to find out if you need to do it. You just know that you can do it.
Yeah, you
but
don't
that's
run into
a bug
the problem.
They already told us that they're gonna fix.
Yeah. But it basically means that thieves are just ultimate scouts, because then you know that this village is captured. I'm not going to run my sword over to try capturing it and it just dies.
Okay, that doesn't really matter. Like, just the fact that thieves cause such huge swings make it like really scary to cap villages. So you want to have your hideout like really far away, so like a thief could come out, but it takes time. And if they ransack, you have time to chase the thief down, and yeah.
I'm sure we'll see some of this. I think though we are approaching. Actually, we are about 2 hours here, so I think it's probably a good point to cut this because I don't think we're discussing anything that can't be just discussed later.
Right. I have just a very quick question.
All right.
So Faded, have you guys because golems are increasing so much? I've heard some talk about reducing some of the goals in 2 racks maps. So instead of the normal 1100 going to maybe 1000. What do you think about that? What are the
I don't
map
know.
makers thinking about that?
I don't think Expo's thinking about it very much. I see what Burke is saying about golems. He doesn't like 1,300 gold. He's pushing for 1,100 gold maps. He does not like golems. But I don't know. I just don't think they're that much of a problem. I like seeing them.
They aren't a problem. It's just
Are
like
they?
a consequence of they aren't. Like it's a consequence of like map design and the situation. Like you see more golems when there are less fronts and when the terrain is heavier, so you can't do anything with knight. But like the more dynamic maps and stuff, you see less golems and you see more knights and you see like cooler like stuff. So I don't see that problem, and the amount of income doesn't affect the golem usage. Like so, making it 1100 doesn't change golem usage. Making it 1400 doesn't change golem usage. You're gonna see golems one way or another.
Yeah, if you make the map 1100, the first player to get an income lead now has Golem Sword a turn, which you cannot mirror.
That's why I said 1,000. There are 1,100 gold maps already.
Okay, but 1000 again doesn't matter. Like okay, I do double dog one turn.
There's a
and the next
difference
turn I get
between
gold.
1,100 and 1,000, and the reason why it's different, it's because at 1,100 you shift one village, and now you're at 1,300, so you can make Golem Soldier, and when you're at 1,200, you don't do Golem Soldier. You need to do Golem and skip a build. So the dynamic changes that's the break point, and that's why I asked specifically going from 1,100 to 1,000.
That assumes spending all your gold. Like it doesn't matter. You're gonna see golems and you'll just save a little bit and then you get a golem. Like if you have a little bit of foresight, you can plan your next build, the builds you do on the next turn, and then you can get a golem regardless of how much income you have. So it doesn't matter.
Why do map makers hate air?
Oh yeah, air,
This is the most pressing question of
Oh yeah,
this
what's up with that?
This entire podcast.
random chance. That's what's up with it.
There are questions. Why do map makers hate naval?
Because naval sucks.
I agree with the map makers on that one.
Like even the non-map makers are hating naval, so like it's not just the map makers.
Although I have to
Alright.
say, I do like the new Port Island Panic. I've had fun with that one so far.
Heavy naval, you should try it. It's good
I
enough.
probably need to nerf warship. I realized that I added in some beach tiles that weren't in the original map, and I didn't know they were
Oh
in the
my
original
God.
map.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I-
they need to be nerfed. I don't think they need to be nerfed.
No, I
I've
lost
used
it.
the warship.
Hot take,
I'm
hot
going
take.
against the warship. I've yet to see it become overpowered.
I would just hard harpoon.
Me and Shu played a game and like warship is actually just unplayable because of like the new meta and merfolk being worse, even though they don't seem to be related. Because like before, merfolk would be like landfolk and they contribute to land, so that was fine. But now with warship, like you don't build merfolk, you don't care, and you just build warships, then that's a problem. Like me and Shu played a game and we figured that out very quickly.
All right. So that is a good reason why map makers hate air, because naval sucks. Anyways, I think
Yeah.
we should call it anyways. Now we're just
I think we're
meeting.
good now.
All right, let's do some outros here. So I'm Dr. Killsauce, and I am the sole owner of all maps that are made in Wargroove. I don't remember why, but that is the truth.
It's now official.
It is
Love the
official.
land.
Yes. All right, next one.
Faded?
I'm Faded Sun. I'm one of the community map makers. You've probably played on one of my maps. And Killsauce does own my maps now, and I don't know why.
Okay, I'm Red Jams. I've been playing the game for a while. Been playing Faded's maps for a while too, and apparently I'm washed up. So there's that.
Yeah, hi, I'm a master of math. I'm just like this noob who plays Wargroove sometimes. Yeah, I just stumbled into second place, so in the last tournament.
Lucky.
So if I can, maybe you can.
Wait, I can't do that. I'm washed up.
This sneaky dragon.
Hey, it's the Sneaky Dragon. Welcome to Wargroove. I make YouTube videos for beginner tutorials, and I have a competitive how to get into competitive playlist showing you some of the basic tips and strategies that new players transitioning into competitive could really use. It's coming out soon, I promise. It's been delayed because of work and stuff, but it is coming out.
Don't believe him, he's a liar.
And
Yeah,
I'm
watch
Time
my
Machine.
videos instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm Timekey, and I came late to this podcast.
That's his only contribution.
No one noticed. Okay, and I'm Basic, and I think this has been it. If you have enjoyed it, give it a follow. Next week we'll probably be here again, even though Groove of War is over. We'll still be doing this, I think. So thanks for watching.